In the year 2050, something quietly disappears from human life. Not with noise, not with warning, but with evolution. The smartphone. That small, glowing rectangle once ruled everything. Our attention, our emotions, our relationships, our memories. It lived in our hands, our pockets, even our sleep. It defined an entire era of humanity. But in the future, it doesn't survive. Because civilization doesn't just upgrade technology, it upgrades reality itself. And what replaces the smartphone is not a new device. It is an entirely new way of living, a world where technology no longer sits in your hand, but surrounds your consciousness. Welcome to 2050. The first shift begins with silence. No notifications, no screen time, no unlocking devices, because there is no device left to unlock. Instead, communication becomes instantaneous, woven directly into thought. Neural interface microthreads, almost invisible to the human eye, now rest along the jawline and inner ear. They don't feel like technology. They feel like intuition. You think of someone, and they are there. Not as a call, not as a screen, but as a presence. Their voice arrives directly into your perception, clear, intimate, as if they are standing beside you in the same air you breathe. And when they respond, you don't hear a ringtone. You feel understanding. Language collapses into pure meaning. Distance collapses into nothing. And for the first time in history, communication becomes completely frictionless. But that is only the beginning. Because in 2050, you no longer look at screens. You see reality itself become the interface. AR contact lenses, thinner than a human cell layer, replace every digital display that once existed. No more phones, no more tablets, no more laptops. Instead, your world transforms. A simple glance at your hand and your schedule appears suspended in space, glowing softly in elegant gold typography. You look at a street, and directions unfold naturally along the road like light guiding your movement. You meet someone new, and subtle identity data, only what you are allowed to see, appears beside them like a quiet introduction from reality itself. Technology no longer demands attention. It integrates into perception with luxury-level subtlety. Invisible, seamless, beautiful. The wealthy call it ambient intelligence. The world calls it normal. But no one calls it technology anymore. Because it no longer feels artificial. It feels like life finally became organized. In this new world, your hands are no longer tied to screens. They are free. And they have become the new control system. Smart skin interfaces, thin, flexible bio-tattoos, now sit beneath the surface of your wrist or palm. A light touch across your skin becomes a command. A swipe on your own hand adjusts your environment. A double tap silently answers a message. No device, no distraction. Just you, interacting with yourself. The human body becomes the ultimate luxury interface. Not mechanical, not external, but personal. And then comes the rise of something even more transformative. Artificial intelligence, no longer inside devices, but living beside you. Not as software, but as presence. Every individual in 2050 is accompanied by an AI companion, subtle, adaptive, and emotionally aware. It doesn't wait for instructions. It observes your behavior, your patterns, your micro-expressions. It understands when you are tired before you do. It knows when your attention is drifting. It can predict your needs before you ever form them into thoughts. And it responds, not like a tool, but like an invisible concierge to your entire existence. It reminds you softly. It organizes your world quietly. It protects your time like a luxury asset, because in 2050, time is the new currency of wealth, and attention is the new form of privacy. The cities themselves evolve to match this intelligence. Skyscrapers are no longer static architecture. They are responsive environments. Glass surfaces become dynamic displays when needed, then return to pure transparency. Transportation systems adjust routes based on your mental intention, not physical input. Luxury homes anticipate your arrival by adjusting temperature, lighting, and even scent profiles before you enter. Everything becomes predictive. Everything becomes anticipatory. Nothing requires effort. But perhaps the most dramatic transformation is this. You no longer search for anything. There is no Google, no apps, no scrolling. Information arrives as context. Knowledge appears when relevant. If you look at a piece of art, its entire history unfolds beside it like a living memory. If you think about travel, destinations materialize in immersive visualization directly in your perception. The world becomes an intelligent companion that speaks only when spoken to, and even then, only in what you need. And in this reality, the concept of loneliness begins to dissolve. Not because people are constantly connected, but because connection is no longer limited by interface. A grandmother on one side of the world can sit in the same perceived room as her grandchild across the planet, not through a video call, but through spatial presence projection, life-sized, realistic, emotionally responsive. Shared experiences no longer require travel, only intention. Yet for all its beauty, 2050 is not loud. It is quiet, almost dangerously quiet. Because when technology stops demanding attention, humanity is left alone with itself again. And that changes everything. Without screens to escape into, people begin to confront something new, their own awareness, their own thoughts, their own uninterrupted existence. Luxury in this era is no longer defined by objects. It is defined by clarity, a clear mind, a calm environment, a life without digital noise. The richest people are not those with the most devices, but those with the most silence. Even entertainment evolves beyond recognition. Movies are no longer watched. They are experienced inside fully immersive sensory fields. You don't observe the story. You live inside it. You feel the wind of alien worlds. You stand inside cities that do not exist. You become part of narratives that adapt based on your emotional response. Every experience is personal. Every moment is unique. And yet, despite all this advancement, one truth remains unchanged. Human desire does not disappear. It evolves. People still seek meaning, still seek connection, still seek identity. But now, they do so in a world that finally has enough intelligence to keep up with them. The smartphone, once the center of human attention, becomes a museum artifact, a symbol of an earlier civilization, a reminder of when humans looked down more than they looked up, a time when reality was smaller than the screen inside their pocket. In 2050, no one carries a phone, because everything a phone once did has been absorbed into existence itself. Communication is thought, navigation is perception, information is context, connection is presence. And technology is no longer something you use. It is something you live within. And perhaps the most powerful shift of all is that humanity finally stops being interrupted. No more constant alerts, no more fractured attention, no more digital noise pulling people away from their lives. Instead, life becomes continuous again, unbroken, whole. And so the question is no longer, what will replace the smartphone? The real question is, what happens to humanity when it no longer needs one? In 2050, the answer is simple. Humanity doesn't become more dependent on technology. It becomes more integrated with reality. And for the first time in modern history, life stops being divided between the digital and the physical because they finally become the same thing. And in that moment, the future doesn't feel futuristic anymore. It feels natural. It feels inevitable. It feels like we were always meant to arrive here. Welcome to the post-phone civilization, where the device is gone and the world itself has become the interface.